Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Sorry I'm a little late, but you know what? We have a saying. Jews have a saying. If you don't pay for the show, you have no reason to expect that it will be on time. For those people who are hanging out in the chat room, I mean, let's be honest about it. It's like, it's one thing you go into a restaurant, you pay for your food, and the food's no good. It's like the food is there's no good, and you made me pay. But you can't sit there and complain, folks, if you don't pay. And I've never asked anybody for a dime for this program, so I apologize.
If ever all-you-can-eat buffet, you may have to bring your own silverware.
Think of it this way.
They make no promises.
Being late, hi Rick May, how you doing? Are you ever going to get your camera fixed and be on the air with us? Question mark. Yeah, being late is not necessarily a bad thing. Ask any guy who forgot his condoms and finding out that his girlfriend was late. It isn't that bad, folks. You can live through it. Really. All right. Today's show was going to be about one thing, and that was naked, frolicking people. But I decided, we couldn't really stretch an entire Moohead program about naked, frolicking people. So, I was like totally looking at LeBron yesterday, and when I saw that LeBron had suggested to AD that he not even really give it a go because, the pulled groin. I mean, LeBron's had his groin pulled, countless times. And the reality is once you have a groin pull, you're not going to be able to change directions or do shit. But it was like a lost cause. And man, the way that game started out, I swear to God, Phoenix came out with such energy, and they were rattling home. I mean, Crowder hits the opening three, and then every time down the floor, they're firing in threes. They're up 22 points at the end of the first quarter, and it's like, Uncle! The Lakers never got closer than 10. And, you wonder, LeBron is of an age right now where he didn't even look, how would I even put this? I hate it when these audio sources just come on here for no apparent reason. I don't know where it's coming from. Oh, there it is. I got it. All right. God, why does it come on all of a sudden? I have no idea. But, LeBron...
It's only on your end, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
I don't hear it, so...
Yeah, it's impossible to concentrate, though, when there's a fucking Chevron commercial running in your head.
Is it the talking cars?
Yes, it's the goddamn talking motherfucking cars. Yes. God, You know what I say? Rick Ocasek, the wrong cars died. All right? So at any rate, we got this. We got LeBron James, and he looked mortal.
I'm moving in stereo.
I mean, we're talking human. I mean, he was going down the middle, and it looked like he was just trying to bull the ball up. He didn't have any lift in his legs at all because LeBron, of course, missed 20 games with a leg injury, and then for AD to go down with the groin pull, and you saw what happened 5.5 minutes to him into the game. But by the end of that 5.5 minutes, it was over anyway. And it's good for the game in one regard. Everybody knows that I respect LeBron James tremendously for his ability to play basketball, but a guy like Booker, I guess there's a time when the young guys have to get it done. And there have to be new names blazing the new trail. And the throne that LeBron has sat on for the 18 years, well, not all 18 years, but the royal, introduction that he got into the league because he was the number one overall pick, and living up to it in so many ways more than most number one overall picks ever do. It's kind of like it's time to get off the throne. It's kind of like this is what happens. You get a little older, people come up and they get better. But I was looking at this and it's like, why did anybody even think? Why did they even think that the Lakers would be at all able to do anything? So you have Anthony Davis, and of course he was injured. You got LeBron James, who was forced to play 41 minutes with a bum leg. Um, Mark Gasol, are you kidding me? I thought I saw him as a walk-on in Jurassic Park.
He finally escaped from Memphis.
Yeah, and then Schroeder. I mean, we watched Schroeder choke every year he played for the Hawks.
For the Hawks and Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, it's like LeBron had to see him when he came in with the Lakers uniform. And it's like that guy never comes through. And Caldwell Pope, kind of a defense.
They'd be better off with Caldwell Banker.
And then this, I mean, what can you say about Kyle Kuzma, who was supposed to be something, but turns out to be nothing at all? And I'm looking at this roster and saying, so you got Morris playing 16 minutes and getting 2 points. You got Dudley do wrong, and
Markieff Morris, who started off on the fucking Suns.
Yeah, I mean, Markieff Morris, nothing. You have Kyle Kuzma playing 18 minutes when this guy was supposed to be something special. But I have a little clue for you, folks. Kyle Kuzma only looked good because of the number of minutes he was being given when he played for a lousy Lakers team that had nobody at all. Sounds kind of like Colin Sexton to me. Of course, Colin Sexton can score 25 points a game with the Cleveland Cavaliers and take 27 shots a night. Of course he can. But what does that mean if he actually goes to a good team? Ask Kyle Kuzma. And his team wasn't even that good. Then you had Wes Matthews playing 28 minutes and shooting 4 of 12. And then Horton Tucker, who a young guy.
Horton here's a who?
Yeah, I mean, you look at this roster up and down, and it's like they look like they were playing in mud. That's the honest truth. They really look like they were slow. And you could see it from the beginning of the game. It was snappy. The Suns were snappy. They were moving the ball. But more than anything, the players themselves, my God, they were going like 100 miles an hour. And the Lakers looked like they were just in first gear. Even when they get the rebounds, they try the outlet pass. There were 3 Suns on the other end of the floor already. And they're laboring, to get the ball,
Well, and how many times did he walk? Was LeBron walking up the court and signaling to the bench, "I gotta come out! I gotta come out!"
Well, nobody wanted to be associated with that whole thing. But the Suns will now be overrated because they beat the Lakers, and the Lakers were defending champions. But the Lakers were a champion.
They won 51 regular season games. I think they earned their number 2 seed.
I think that they're a good young basketball team. There ain't no question about that. But the Lakers won a title.
But where they match up with Utah, that's going to be the thing. Because I think that's where they lost most of their games.
I honestly believe that last year's championship was kind of tainted because of the circumstances and the way the season played out. It's great that
that break was exactly what LeBron needed to heal up in order to have that big push.
And then
it was condensed to go from Well, they ended in the fall, and then they started up in January or
Death.
December
Death.
to play this season. You know, there's no fucking way. Not with the equivalent of having the 484,000-mile LeBron James trying to do something at the age of 38 or whatever he is.
Yeah, you know, it's a shame from one perspective because injuries in the NBA were crippling. I mean, everybody was crippled. I mean, look at the Cavaliers this year. They couldn't even field a legitimate starting five. I mean, everybody was hurt all season long. And I don't understand. The owners, of course, aren't the ones who get the injuries. They're the ones who want to stuff the money in their pockets. But the NBA was not entertaining at all this year. And the reason was because all these injuries and the fact that they wanted to get right back into the fray because they didn't want to lose any more of their money. And, you know, they wanted to play a season with virtually no rest for the players at all. And the younger guys could handle it at this point in their careers, but older guys, even guys like AD, who have been in the league for long enough, you know, and don't be surprised if Kevin Durant grabs his leg at some point, you know? Don't be surprised. These guys who have played that many years in the league, it's not a real entertaining circumstance.
What's the Phoebe Cates reference, Dactar?
Oh, who in the hell knows? He's on acid.
Okay.
I have no idea what he's thinking. You know, the Suns are now.
He's apparently thinking of. Okay. The moving in stereo reference. Okay.
Oh, that's fine. Good for him. He's somewhere.
Apparently, that was playing in the jerk off. In Fast Times, that's the jerk off scene.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I honestly, I'm 64 years old and I'm going senile. I don't remember anything.
It becomes all one big
jumbled blur. You know.
Yes.
The Suns are of 8-1 odds now to win the NBA title. You see what I mean? The gamblers are overreacting. I mean, the Phoenix Suns have a chance to win, but I would give them a better chance to win, honestly, if they were a little more seasoned than what they are. I mean, Jay Crowder is not going to come up large, okay? We saw that in Cleveland. Jay Crowder is, you know, Miles Bridges is a good young player, but has taken a while to get there. Ayton is a guy who's long and sometimes good, sometimes not so good. Chris Paul is really at a point right now where he's also just nursing his body, trying to get through this all. And then you have Booker, who is like, you know, playing 46 minutes, and they'll cripple him eventually. But he's young.
But honestly, the way that this team is constructed, it's kind of like the Pacers were with Reggie Miller, where Reggie Miller is the featured guy, and then everybody else just has to, you know,
but those
make a couple of baskets.
Those are the days where Rick Smits could carry you at center. I mean, those days are long gone. I mean, right now it's going to be very, very hard. And then you have Kaminsky coming off the bench, the kid who used to play in Wisconsin, I believe, in college, and he is certainly not God's gift to athleticism. Then you have Payne, you have Johnson, you have Craig. They have no real depth, and you know, I don't see them going too much deeper. And a lot of it has to do with Chris Paul. The fact that Chris Paul hasn't been Chris Paul for some time because of a series of injuries, and they need him on the floor to set the floor. I mean, Chris Paul was 4 of 12 in the game, but he had 12 assists. And you know who he was assisting because Booker played 46 minutes, had 11 rebounds. All right? 11 rebounds for Booker. but only 3 assists. He gets the ball in his hands. He's going to score the basketball. You got to have people
Well,
get
but
the ball to him.
that's what I'm saying. Everybody else is just feeding him the ball. That's all they need to do, and occasionally hit an open shot.
Yeah, and again, the numbers are a little bit stilted because of the start of the game. But if you look at how that game started, the first quarter, and you look at the first quarter statistics compared to, they ended up shooting 51.4% from three, 50.7 overall from the field. And they made 21 of 22 free throws. That's just about as well as you could humanly play. And
yeah, Devin Booker ended up at 80% for three.
Yeah, I mean, and it's great that you have a game like that, but as you get playing against teams that are deeper, your guys are going to get worn down. So don't get too excited, like 8-1 odds and all that stuff. If you want to bet, you can go ahead and bet on it, but I can bet on the fact that they're the up and coming team, and they need a Jay Crowder isn't even really going to be there. He had a really good start to the game, but he's not a day in, night out presence. As a power forward, Crowder and Bridges, now DeAndre Ayton, at least a guy like that is a young center, and he's got length, and he can, alter the course of shots, which is good. Chris Paul can be a point guard, but he's not going to be the big scoring threat that he used to be. But at power forward, this team with Crowder, Bridges, and Kaminsky, they're going to need some help. They're going to have to hit on another draft pick, make a trade, do something to expand the roster because they're not quite there yet. But it was sure great to watch that start of the game. It was great to see them live up to the moment. That's for sure. So I was really impressed with that. Around the league in the NFL, well, what a surprise. Cam Newton gets his hand examined because he was unable to finish practice. And it was his throwing hand, too. He was seen flexing his right throwing hand at times during the practice. He stayed on the field to watch the remainder of practice with first-round draft pick Mac Jones and then Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer taking the quarterback reps in his place. Believe me, when all is said and done, Cam Newton ain't going to be there. And they're not going to win with Jarrett Stidham, Brian Hoyer, or right out of the chute, Mac Jones. So all this thing about, they really improved themselves because of what they did, in free agency, what they did in the draft, it's like, fuck you. Bill Belichick's going to be gone in a big furry hurry. One more year like he had last year. And they were right on the edge of the cliff last year,
I have a feeling they'll end up one game under 500.
I just don't see it on that team at all. And they're saying, we think that Cam Newton is really going to have this big year 2 leap, because, he's going to be more comfortable with the system. And it's like, the system has nothing to do with it. Keeping him on the field and his shoulder, for God's sakes, his throwing arm and his throwing motion really look awful. And no matter how his mind processes something, you have to be able to get the ball to people.
Stencil squeezing art on the side of his head.
Yeah,
that's about how much he's processing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I never thought that. I always thought
no intel inside.
Yeah, Cam Newton was overrated when he played with the Panthers, and I think it was a good story. The whole Superman thing, very good athlete, but injuries again, they take their toll at the NFL level, and that's what happened. We find out now that Mike Krzyzewski is retiring in 2022. So this will be the final year of Coach K as he rides his personal limousine into the sunset. Fuck Krzyzewski. Fuck Duke. fuck the sports factories that the universities have become. So their coach in waiting is a guy named John Shayer. I don't even know who in the fuck he is. But, Krzyzewski's been at
Former
Duke now
player, I think.
41 years. That's how long Krzyzewski's been at Duke. And but can you name who the coach of Duke was before Krzyzewski? Now you see, this
I don't know. I was like 9 or 7.
I mean, and they weren't a bad team. His name was Bill Foster, and he was the coach of the Duke basketball program. And
But of course, they were getting ran over by North Carolina every year. So
there was NC State, there was North Carolina. Yeah, back then, and those are my college days. My goodness, Phil Ford, Mitch Kupchak, Walter Davis. That UNC team was awesome, and you had guys who were,
Walter Davis was a former Sun.
Yeah.
I got to see him for about 10 seconds.
Well, these
and then
guys
the drug
all went into the pros.
After the drug scandal, they got scattered like fucking pool balls.
Well, I mean, it's the fact is all those players ended up in the pros. But so now you're going to have to, the new coach is going to have to walk into that situation. And if it doesn't get off to the best start in the world, who's going to take shit for it. But personally, the older Krzyzewski got, the more he looked like a caricature of himself, and I get kind of bored with it, really. I get bored with the whole damn thing. This is the weirdest story of the day, and it happened in my hometown. I sound like Bruce Springsteen. In Canton, Ohio. That's where I grew up, folks. According to the Canton Repository, the head coach of Canton McKinley High School, and McKinley really is the Massillon McKinley thing. McKinley is the big program, and even when there were 4 high schools when I lived in Canton, Canton McKinley was one of them, and McKinley fielded the strongest football team along with Massillon. These are the days when Willie Spencer played for Massillon. It's way before your time, folks. But believe me, the McKinley-Massillon rivalry really got big when I was a kid. So, the head coach of McKinley, a guy named Marcus Watley, 2 of his assistants and an assistant baseball coach were all fired. And the reason is really bizarre. A 17-year-old player reported what happened to him on May 24th. A lawyer for the teen's player's family has announced plans to sue the school district. The player and his families are of the Hebrew Israelite religious faith and do not eat pork. You ready for this?
They made him eat a hot dog?
Oh, it's worse than that. And there's 2 different stories, of course. But what it boils down to is the teen's attorney, Ed Gilbert is his name, said the player skipped a voluntary workout 4 days before the incident because he was nursing a sore shoulder. He was ordered to sit in the middle of the gym and eat an entire pepperoni pizza. He was allowed to remove the pepperoni and some of the cheese, but pork residue remained, according to the attorney. But then the other part of it is he would have been subjected to additional drills.
That's not kosher.
Yeah. This is high school, folks. Kid's got a sore shoulder, and it's like, no, we don't listen to you. You have less rights here than you will in college, and when you play in college, you're not going to have any there either. So get used to it, boy. All right? So he would have been subjected to additional drills, and his status on the team would have been jeopardized if he had not consumed the pizza. And by the way, if you're really of the Hebrew tradition kosher diet, you could not eat meat and milk at the same meal. In other words, there ain't no fucking such thing as a cheeseburger. You cannot mix meat with dairy. So on twofold level, but it's an interesting thing that you can't tell me that a kid, let's say that you think that the kid was jaking it and that his shoulder really wasn't that bad. But you knew the 17-year-old had this strict dietary thing due to religious beliefs. And the way you
Well, it's a good thing he didn't have. Can you imagine if he had celiac?
Well,
from eating the fucking dough, I mean, that would have almost killed him.
But this is a religious thing. I mean, it's like you could make him run.
Well, so is celiac. I mean, that really runs through the real.
Yeah. But running up and down stairs, doing wind sprints, whatever. Yeah, I get it. If you think the guy's jaking it, that's one thing. But goodness gracious. I mean, to make him sit in front of everybody and do that, and it's like, you're going to make you eat pork. I mean, that is hateful. Absolutely hateful. And it's embarrassing. And I'm glad the coaches were fired. The thing is why can't coaches understand that there are ways of disciplining players without humiliating them and interfering in the way they're raised by their parents? I don't get it. Yeah. Just to be crazy. All right. Question keeps getting asked of me, and I don't know why this is so important. The answer is 11 inches. Okay? Leave me alone. No. Will Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt run for 1,000 yards each?
No.
I mean, look. If they do, something bad's happened in my estimation.
Yeah, like something like last year where Nick gets a banged up knee and has to sit for 4 or 5 games.
Right. I mean, and the fact is, these two backs have a different role, and I really don't understand why the dual 1,000-yard back thing. You can look.
They want to go back to Marty Ball with Biner and Mack, and they're not that kind of player.
Well, not only that, they're very different types of players, and nobody ever talked about. Well, do you think that Larry Zonka, Mercury Morris, and Jim Kick can all get 1,000 yards? I mean, each one. I mean, Jim Kick was the guy who was, the pass receiving guy out of the backfield. Mercury Morris was the speed. Larry Zonka was the snow plow. They all had a role. And, Nick Chubb is the one cut, break it all the way, big play and waiting guy. And Kareem Hunt is a guy with a low center of gravity with massive legs who breaks tackles and gets you the extra yards that you need and will turn 4-yard runs into 6-yard runs and is less and can also catch the ball out of the backfield better than Nick Chubb can. They're two very different players. And why they insist on this whole nonsense of, well, we're going to have ourselves 2,000, if we feed the ball to our running backs that much, Baker Mayfield is going to say, what did you draft me for?
And can you imagine Odell Beckham in that scenario?
Well, I'll tell you what's the real stupidity of it. If you ran the ball enough times for two runners to get 1,000-yard seasons, first of all, by running the ball that way, yes, you wear out the defense, but you also keep games artificially close. Hello? It doesn't take much, intelligence to figure out that you're running a lot of clock. It reduces the number of possessions for both teams. That keeps games closer. Ask Bill Belichick. Ask all of the Browns coaches when they didn't have, post 1999, ask Eric Mangini about that. Hey, we got that 3-0 win against Buffalo in the snow. The fact is you run the ball reduces times of possession, as far as for one team, and it shortens the game, is what it does, which means it's going to be a lower scoring game. But it also multiplies the impact of any errors you make. If you're running the football and you end up having, a 16 play drive and your running back fumbles it, or you wind up going backwards because of holding penalties or whatever, you got to get rid of the ball. You don't get any points out of it. And then the other team goes down like tortoises and kicks a field goal, and suddenly you're behind. It's a bad idea. You want to be able to balance your attack so that the team doesn't know what's coming next. The team that's playing the Browns doesn't know what's coming next. And
now, to me, a legitimate question would be, can the Browns have 2,000 yards rushing? And I think that's a very attainable goal.
Well, again, I've seen it where you have games where you could literally have 300 yards rushing. It can be done. At the same
time, they did it against Dallas.
Yep. But there are other games go each way. And Joe is saying that he has no doubt the Browns are going to play the Ravens 3 times this year. And I'm just sitting back and seeing what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson and how he is going to mature as a passer, because they're not going to win a Super Bowl doing that. And they've got some players. They got to give the kid a chance to develop as an NFL quarterback. And I know that he's reinvented the position, but I've seen this reinvention concept before where people end up getting crippled. And
and the Ravens put out this thing where he's throwing to Sammy Watkins, and the wounded duck is fluttering. So it's fluttering worse than any Gary Kubiak pass ever.
Yeah, I mean,
it's almost tumbling. It's fluttering so bad.
Yeah, I mean, but he came in against the Browns, and at the end of the game, he completed every pass he threw. I think that there's ability there, but you've got to have faith, and you've got to allow him to make some mistakes in order to get the greater good. I'm being asked a question here by Joe Shipley. I left Canton in 1985, all right? By 1986, I was in 85, I was in Tennessee, and then I was out in the state of Washington. So I don't know what the Balloon Fest of 1986 was. I don't know the reference.
Oh, was that when they were? I think they did a gigantic release of balloons, and it caused all kinds of problems.
Who did?
I think it was in Cleveland. Somebody had posted about this on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been so much. I mean, it couldn't have been worse than Nickel Beer Night at the stadium for the Indians. You can actually see that reenacted as it happened exactly in the stadium on YouTube. That was the most humiliating thing I've ever seen in my life. People who are so fucking drunk, they literally ripped the pitcher's mound out of the ground. Can you imagine how long that would take?
Well, and they were doing on CBD today. They were doing a comparison of what's been going on in the NBA compared to that, and then also the death of disco in 1979 at Comiskey Park.
Yeah.
When they literally burned the field and couldn't play the game.
See, we know it for the radio thing because of Steve Dahl. He was the disc jockey whose idea was to blow up the records and all that shit. That was
and then I had people arguing with me that Harry Carey was not the announcer for the White Sox at the time. That's like he didn't join the Cubs until like 1981.
Yeah,
I lived in Northern Illinois. I think I know my shit.
But wasn't Harry Carey also in St. Louis?
Before that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Harry Carey.
He started off in St. Louis, and then he ended up with the Shit Sox in the 70s.
Right.
And then he moved on to the Cubs when they got Dave Kingman and a couple other guys, and then eventually Andre Dawson.
Yeah, Joe's playing Stand By Your Man. Look, he's a good young quarterback. And, the thing is that you've played a Browns team that didn't have a secondary and a defensive line. Now, you at least have somebody out there who's going to help Myles Garrett out. All right. And so Jadeveon Clowney, and he's good against the run. We have an opportunity if the scheme is all Joe Woods and, we're getting players for him. And what would happen to the Ravens if they weren't able to control the ball at will like they do with their running game? And what happens if they really have to go to Lamar Jackson to run the football more and more? And if he starts throwing more passes because they fall behind in a game, what's going to happen to him when we have speedier players in our secondary? These are all the questions that, right now.
And some faster linebackers as well.
Yeah, right now, the issue is that you have to keep your eye on him so much that the tight ends would get open from linebackers, and it would always, and it was easily achieved. May not be so easily achieved as teams get better. And let me point out again and again and again, as good as the Ravens were during the regular season, they did not win it all. And there is a question as to whether kryptonite will continue to waylay them, because they got a thing in their head. When you got a thing in your head, you got to get it out of there by performing. And we'll see if they perform. So, I don't care about 1,000-yard running, and to tell you the truth, as great as Nick Chubb's been, he's not like the leader in the league in rushing yardage. He's the leader in yards per carry, and I'd rather keep him fresh. I'd rather him have that breakaway capacity than have to concern myself with feeding him the ball 25 to 27 times a game. That's just not, you don't need to do that. The luxury is having Kareem Hunt and having him being a third down weapon out of the backfield, as well as the guy who spells Nick Chubb, so that Nick, when he's averaging 6 yards a carry, and he averages somewhere around, if he played the whole season, probably 1,300 yards, you look at that and you say, he doesn't have to carry the ball that many times. If he's playing what was 16 games, and he was getting, so per game, he was averaging 80 yards a game. So,
like 16 or 17 carries, I think.
That's right. That's it, man.
That's a long way from 33 a game.
But you give the ball to the other guy, and he'll wear him down too, because he's physical as hell, Kareem Hunt. So, there's a lot.
Well, and then they're also going to throw in carries for Felton and other people. So,
and let me say this, Joe, it really isn't yet an even matchup, because the Ravens have proven that they can beat the Browns. The Browns haven't proven they can beat the Ravens, and just because we have
consistently,
a nice draft, and we haven't, that we got some good free agent action. It's all on paper right now. You got to do it. So, right now, in my standings, the Ravens are ahead of the Browns. But a lot can change. And injuries and development of young players, those two things will be what determines what happens, in the AFC North. I mean, that's just, look what happened last year. Ben Roethlisberger turned into a pillar of stone before our eyes. Joe Burrow ended up being carted off of a field, and the Browns ended up with a secondary that was void of talent. And for the most part, the Ravens remained in, healthy and, but I still think Harbaugh's going to come back and bite you in the ass. And Harbaugh to me is to football what Tom Thibodeau is to basketball. And if you didn't believe me in the last show I did, you believe me now. I mean, you think Julius Randle's going to be a guy who's going to carry your team? Fuck that shit. I mean, Julius Randle was just literally, just being foolish. He was hoisting up all kinds of stuff and forcing balls. And Thibodeau, it's like, well, it's the defense that matters. It's like the ghost of Marty Schottenheimer. And, really kind of an unfortunate thing that fans have to watch. Harbaugh's another guy who's the same kind of guy. And,
Yeah, he's going to put a lot of faith in his kicking game.
Yeah. So, and you can't be guaranteed that you're going to be in close games all the time. And when you're playing the creme de la creme teams, you're not going to, that's the biggest question that I have. The biggest question that I have about the Ravens is the coach, because he hasn't proven to me a whole hell of a lot. He really hasn't. So,
Other than he can beat his brother. He can beat his brother in a head-to-head matchup, and that's it.
Well, I mean, I don't think that Ben can last 17 games. He's going to get hit and he's going to get hurt, That's the deal.
Yeah, Ray Plisberger, I think his elbow is going to take too many hits and they'll be done. They've got too many question marks on the offensive line, in my opinion.
Right. So, and again, and Stefanski, great year one. We'll see what the second act is. There's a lot more time to prepare for the Cleveland Browns now. Let's just put it that way. Things are not going to be any easier for the Browns. Indians fans, I don't know what to tell you. We got the Orioles next, and tonight's game, which you can't miss, well, you can, features Giancarlo Mejia, and that's our guy, all right? He's starting, and he's come out of the bullpen. They've been stretching his arm out, and he's going to be pitching tonight, 7:05. Savali's going to pitch tomorrow against the guy who pitched the no-hitter, John Means. And our TBD is going to pitch on Sunday. We don't even have a pitcher determined for the Sunday game. And, it's like Tristan McKenzie. I mean, he struck out 8 men in a row and then turns into a pumpkin. And he can't throw strikes. I don't know what the deal is. He's 20 years old. I mean, that's part of what the deal is. He gets flustered. And they need, it kind of reminds me, although he doesn't have as live an arm as Carlos Carrasco did. I remember when Carrasco was in the National League, and what they said about him was that he would fall in love with his curveball. And it was like, you got a 95-mile-an-hour heater, and you can spot it. Why aren't you using it? And there was just something that was stuck in Carrasco's head that he loved in that breaking ball because it got him strikeouts. But he also hung balls, and he gave up runs. When he came to the Indians and they worked with him, they started developing more of a routine for him that accented throwing more fastballs. And I look at McKenzie, and McKenzie is a guy who tops out maybe 93, all right? And depending on the gun that's in the stadium. I saw one register 94, but 93 is the biggest, hardest he can throw. And then he's got the slider and the curveball, and that's about all he's got. And he does not have command of the fastball. The fastball's consistently riding high above the strike zone. And they need to work with this kid's mechanics. And the only way that's going to happen is in the minor leagues at AAA Columbus, where he gets to pitch every 4 days, every 4 or 5 days. That's it. It's the only way it's going to happen. And the Indians at 30-24, they're doing as well as they can do. and they're nowhere near getting Franmil Reyes back, and they're trying to continue to force Jake Bowers on the population at large. Um, the kid that they thought was going to be their shortstop of the future, Andres Jimenez, no, he couldn't hit. He's hitting 256 right now at AAA, and he was having trouble fielding the ball because honestly he couldn't hit. They bring up this kid, and I forget his name now. This is the one that Terry Francona said, well, this kid can hit. He was hitting a 406 last year in AAA, and I forget his name now. And this kid's been horrible. 32 at-bats and 14 strikeouts, and he's a contact hitter, supposedly. I mean, the jump from AAA to the major leagues is astounding. We don't have any first base backup help. You got Naylor, and Naylor can't hit left-handed pitching. Bowers can't hit right or left-handed pitching. And Bobby Bradley, the guy that they were touting for the past, 4 years now, is hitting 161 in Columbus, folks. He ain't coming up. We got no help there. Ramirez continues to hit at third, but he's made more errors at third base than any third baseman in the league. And that's because he's got to do more because Frankie's not to the left of him anymore. Going to be, and we're stuck now with Bradley Zimmer in center. I don't know what's going to happen. How the Indians are going to score runs, I don't know, but we're giving them up more. And that's not good. And, losing Plesac to his own stupidity, fracturing a thumb, bad news. The Indians are not able to function right now, and their bullpen is getting a little scary too. Clase loses focus. Karinchak is going to be busted for using foreign substances. I don't know if you saw the video on that, Brian.
Yeah, messing with his glove, and it's like, whatever. I remember Phil Negro, so whatever.
He's cheating. I mean, you could see the angle. He's got a red glove and he's got a dark substance, and he's running his 2 forefingers and thumb over so he can get a better grip on the ball to throw the breaking ball.
But he still managed to get the bases loaded.
Well,
with that. Look, it was by sheer luck that they managed to win that game.
It's the same thing. He's high in the strike zone. The curveball was up. The fastball was up.
He's high, all right.
He couldn't find the plate, and he gave up a couple of singles that got through, and then he helped the other team out by walking hitters. And
it's like Rocky Ford, just hit the one in the middle.
Yeah, thank God Abreu swung at a fastball that was down in the zone that allowed that final out, because anything that was up was going to leave the park, and I was afraid that he was going to hang a curveball, and that would be that. But both Clase and Karinchak, the last couple of timeouts, have been more Houdini guys, like Bob Wickman-esque, than they have dominating performances. They seem to lack, command. And that kid they brought up from AAA, his parents were there to watch him start a game, and he just shit his pants. What's that kid's name, Rick? Who is the pitcher? He threw 86 miles an hour. He topped out at 86, 87, and his changeup was 79. And it's like, that ain't going to get anybody out at the big league level. It ain't going to get it done. And he was having trouble even controlling that stuff. He didn't even have the little cowboy Josh Tomlin's control, but he had the same gun readings that Josh Tomlin had. And he's a fly ball pitcher. You just don't, it's like, but we've run out. Our minor league system is depleted. So, I don't know. You got to watch the game, sit there and see.
But again, I didn't expect this team to win more than 35 games. So,
Yeah, I mean, at 30-24, they're doing way better than most people think they have a right to. But to be honest with you, they don't have the offensive punch and the advantage that they've had in years past, which is the depth of the pitching staff. Where you could go from Kluber to Bieber to Carrasco. and then, you had, people, you had four pitchers who you felt confident could win anytime they started, and then your fifth guy was no slouch. Now you don't got nobody. You got Mejia, who nobody knows what they're getting, and you're trying to bring up AAA guys. It's quilt work, it's patchwork, trying to figure out who's going to start, and you're getting more and more bullpen games, and so you're trying to get more out of Nick Whitgren in the middle innings. You're trying to get, you're trying to get 5 innings out of your starters, and then rely on a host of relief pitchers. And that's a hard thing to do, because when your bullpen goes down hurt because they throw too many innings, then you got all kinds of problems on your hands. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So that's all I have for y'all today. I wish I could talk more about things, but they're not happening yet. And what nicknames do I want the Indians to have? I don't give a shit. I really don't care what they call themselves. I would rather that we actually have major league players in our outfield, really. And how much longer can we stay with guys like Luplow and, guys who have proven over and over that they can't do it at the big league level. And we're down to, Austin Hedges and Rivera at the catching position, and neither of those guys could get a big hit to save their souls. And one's 37 years old, and the other one swings a bat like he's 67 years old. So, it's...
Oh, shit.
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. I will be back with you on Monday. I'm sure Brian will be here too, and maybe we'll have some other people on the panel just for the hell of it. Enjoy your weekend. I hope you stay dry. We're getting
Joe Shipley. Don't be we put the link in the description. You're welcome to join us anytime.
Yeah, and you know something? You're absolutely right, Joe. Down here in Florida, we have, today was like 96-degree heat index, and we'd be getting rain. It's like a jungle, rainforest. And yeah, everything I have are shirts that are wicking fibers to keep me cool. And I got a bunch of shorts that are the same. I live in tennis clothes. But hey, the way I look at it is, I could say
Moohead Radio, now brought to you by Izod.
You're very perceptive, or I could say, go fuck yourself. So, either way, I mean, I'm not here to look good. Did you notice? I'm a radio guy. You're not supposed to look at me. You're supposed to hear the mellifluous voice, but you're not supposed to. I'm a fucking gargoyle. Yeah, what are you going to do? Dress up a gargoyle in a nicer shirt? What are you going to do? You're going to give me fashion tips?
We're going to make you look like Bjorn Borg in 1982. Fila wristbands, Fila headbands.
You know how short the shorts were then? I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, if I had to wear shorts that short...
Hey, that should give Rox a little bit of a thrill.
No, it looks like sausage in the casing. You don't want to see that, believe me. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back Monday. Until then, see you, Joe. And thanks, everybody, for stopping by.
See you Monday.
And hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.
Thanks for stopping by, Key.